Are they a fan or a friend? As you get more visible and you are on more stages, as you are on podcasts, as you write books, as you're doing your thing in more rooms, in more physical and virtual spaces, you may find the line blurred. Through some tough situations, I have learned the hard way who my friends were and who my fans were. So I'm going to break down for you the key differences. Let's start with defining what a fan is. A fan admires your work and how you show up. They might also put you on a pedestal, thinking that you can do no wrong. They may hear positive accolades and positive gossip about you that could really inform how they treat you and how they perceive you. So their view of you is often fed by the overarching ideas that the social group that you're both part of seem to share and express, both when you're in the room and when you're not in the room. However, if there is ever a shift or a rift with a prominent person in that social group, they will just as quickly believe whatever is said about you and change their perception and create emotional distance, often without asking you a single question. Because it's not about you, it's not about the connection, it's about the overarching public perception that they are a part of as a fan. It's a little more fickle than a true friendship. So let's go into how you know that it's a true friendship. A friend admires you as a person, as a human, with flaws and with things that you're working on, but also can admire what you do and how you show up. But that's not the thick of it. If they hear a rumor, they're not going to assume that it's true. Instead, they might either totally disregard it because they're like, oh no, I know that person better than that. Or they'll directly ask you if it's something that bothers them. In essence, they're valuing the relationship more than the drama. And even if, let's say, public perception in your social group shifts, they're going to be more curious than judgmental because you have that strong bond that is not easily broken. Let me share an example of a time when I mistook a fan for a friend. At a high level, I was in a social group where I felt really connected and I felt so seen, and I was regularly gushed over in this group to the point where there were times when it was a little uncomfortable, but other times where I felt like, oh, I guess they really see me. They see the absolute best in me and they're liberal with expressing it. How special is that? However, I'd been a part of this group for years. Someone new to the group comes in and says a variation of, oh, she's actually not who you think she is. I think totally fake. And gives examples that are, let's say, out of context and either completely fabricated or rooted in some truth, but of course, twisted in a way to make it seem like my intentions were different than what they were. Because this has happened in my life more than once, I can attribute at least one time where this was due to blatant jealousy, and another time where it was maybe an element of paranoia on this person's end, or maybe they really felt like they were doing the group a service of like, hey, I found out something and you should know this. And what I have reframed my own life is the blessing that people that I felt close with leaving my life without a conversation, what was devastating, what has been devastating, has actually turned into a blessing because the kinds of friends that I want to have, the kind of friend that I am, is one who is more curious than judgmental. And if there's a rumor going around, I'm going to have that direct communication if I care about the relationship. And I hold the standard that those in my life do the same thing. Even thinking back to this one example of this one friend that was very blatantly jealous of me and told me, and then a friend that I was really close with that I introduced her to once we had a rift with that friend that I knew to sort of really not tell the truth often, which is one of the reasons why we weren't friends anymore. I had a conversation with her about it. And then the other friend, I didn't think much of it. And then she just became totally unresponsive to me. After being in an enduring friendship, it seemed like it was completely gone. And I even tried reaching out again several years later, just saying, hey, what's up? Not bringing up what I thought happened, which would be this weird gossip because I'm like, oh, I know it's not true. And there comes a point where you need to let it go. Because if people choose to believe things about you that are untrue and they lose the gift of your friendship, then yeah, you're losing the gift of theirs. But how true and real and rooted was it if they can let it go without a conversation? The way that I handle this now is so much different than how I handled it in the past. In the past, when I had this realization that a friend group had sort of changed their tune, or even an individual had changed their tune due to something that I could only guess about, I I used to feel helpless. I used to feel like, oh my gosh, like here it goes again. Like, what is up with this misunderstood pattern? Until I decided that actually their conduct did not meet my standard. Instead of over identifying with this misunderstood archetype, and which is kind of like a variation of the victim archetype, I decided that I stand up for what I believe in. And there are some people that may not like it and they could make things up about me, or they could take things out of context and try to tarnish my reputation. And if it works, so be it. I'm untouchable, I've decided. One of the fears that we have with these rumors is that there's going to be an opportunity that's taken away from us, or that it's going to, in effect, make our lives lower quality, when actually it is our invitation to make a swift redirection of our focus and our energy. And this has really taught me the art of detachment, not in a cold way, but to also understand that there are so many gaps where there could be something else that's going on. But I'm fairly intuitive, so I do know when something has really shifted. You can kind of tell when you enter a room if people are quiet, if people leave the room, if people are not looking you in the eye. There are signs where I don't want you to gaslight yourself and be like, oh, maybe they're just having an off day. It's like, or maybe people are talking some shit, but when you stand for something and you're visible and you're putting yourself out there, that is a risk that you take. And when or if it happens, the best thing that you can do is to be graceful and to know yourself, remind yourself of who you are, because sometimes our friends do not remind us of who we are and we get to transition. It's about being open to that sense of connection, not necessarily coming from the same place because that's where it's always come from. This can feel like, but wait, come on, I just want something stable and something lasting. You can do your part in sourcing these relationships by emphasizing your tendency towards embracing direct communication and being able to receive it. And not necessarily seeking out conflict, but being open to conflict, provided that it gives the relationship a chance to deepen and to be prolonged. And for in my own life, I've really let go of that expectation that my life is going to look like everyone else's, because I'm making choices that not everyone makes. I'm choosing radical authenticity. And yeah, there could be some people out there that think that it's like totally fake, or you know what I mean, or like some agenda. And it's like, I just can't be concerned with that because I know what I'm here to do. I don't have time for the BS. Okay. So I hope that there's something in here for you that resonates, especially if you're becoming more visible, or you're thinking about becoming more visible and you have these fears. I'm not here to tell you, oh, it's all going to be completely fine. But guess what? It will ultimately be fine. But this is life. When we choose certain things, when we choose ourselves, when we choose a certain conduct that we want in our relationships that maybe we haven't had as consistently in the past, we're being asked to step up and maybe even temporarily stand alone. And I will say in my experience that since making these tough choices, sometimes begrudgingly, other times with ease, letting go of the things that are not staying, I meet people. I meet the most amazing people that are actually value aligned. So you can and will have that too. This really comes down to understanding what real intimacy is and how being admired and being celebrated, those are great things. But also, we need to both give and be given the benefit of the doubt, because wires can get crossed sometimes in communication, and we can't control that. But what we can control is knowing the purity and how we show up and the standards that we hold for those that we keep close. So the next time you're wondering if someone is a fan or a friend, I invite you to ask a few questions. Would they stand by me if public perception shifted? Would they be curious enough to hear my side and my experience? Because at the end of the day, emotional intimacy is the difference between connection that lasts and connection that crumbles.